Normally, I would try to fit only 2 levels into one video. This week, I'm doing 3 for a couple of reasons. 1, all 3 of these maps are the same difficulty. 2, they're made by the same creator. And 3, last week we only had 1 map, and it was a kinda short video. So I thought I'd up my game a little bit this week and give you a triple feature. This week, we're going to be looking at the maps of Charleroi 97. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I don't know. I know you're subscribed though, so please feel free to correct me in the comments. Also known as a... Hold on, let me read my notes. Vroonthib. Again, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. This map creator was fairly prominent back when the demo was free but very limited in its scope. Since then, they've lost a little bit of steam, pun fully intended both for the platform and the train joke, and they haven't really published many maps since around June of 2021. That's not to say they've been completely inactive. They've uploaded 2 new maps to the Steam Workshop, one of which was uploaded just this last week. But considering that they were sort of at this first wave of creators and have sort of stuck around, it's kind of odd we haven't seen more from them. After all, creators from this time period, such as myself or Stargirl, have posted double-digit amounts of levels, even if Stargirls are mostly hidden now. I guess we all have our own lives to live, and sometimes our interests shift and change, don't they? Still, it's interesting to see, because Charleroi has the second highest total amount of levels in the game, only beaten out by me. And yes, I know I make a lot of maps. But it's still just kind of funny to me. I don't think it's necessarily a problem, it's just something interesting. Charleroi was the first person, aside from myself, in the community to get one of their levels into the game. The level in the background right now, East Sinnoh, is the first map that I didn't make that made it into the game other than the prior official maps. It was a part of the giveaway challenge, you know, the one where people had to beat 10 levels and then they would be put into a raffle where one lucky winner would get a Steam key. Okay, it was actually like 3, but still. Charleroi was actually a participant in that competition. They did not win it, but we didn't really rig it against them in any way. The reason their level got included in the game was because we just didn't have one ready in time. I was working hard on making a variety of levels of varying difficulty, and some of them were leaning more in towards the challenging side of things, and I really didn't want to have the contest lean into the challenging or ludicrous difficulty ratings too much. I wanted them to end at roughly that difficulty, so that when we had this massive wave of new maps being added to the game, and most of them were harder than usual, people would be ready to experience that difficulty. So in the midst of this all, I started looking for some filler levels. First, I started in my own collection, but I couldn't actually find any good enough levels at the time. I then started looking through other people's levels and came across Charleroi. At the time, they had published 2 maps. Neither were very flashy, but both were fun and interesting and unique. Most other levels felt kind of untested to play, but Charleroi felt good. Well, at least one of them did. This one honestly didn't, and I made a bunch of edits to make it work. However, it did feel a lot more polished and interesting than most levels. And at this point, I had already gotten permission to use Charleroi. It wasn't released yet, and I thought that East Sinnoh was a little easier with the edits that I had made, so I requested to use it too. So, funnily enough, despite it not being the first one requested to be added to the game, it was the first that made it into the game of Charleroi levels. There's honestly not a ton to say about this level other than that, though. The challenge is fairly straightforward, except for maybe the train that reverses on a sync station, and the layout is fairly simple. I guess it is interesting, though, that this map has exclusively manual signals. Kinda makes things harder to keep track of, you know? One cute thing about this level, and some of you may have already noticed this, is the fact that it's based on a Pokemon game, or a setting at the very least. Personally, I'm not much of a Pokemon fan. I had some friends in high school who were so obsessed with it that it got annoying. But I have looked into the map, and I admire the detail and the passion behind this map. It's very nice, you know? Very cutesy. Kinda makes me want to make my own based on Octo expansion, but, well, we'll see if that ever actually happens. While East Sinnoh was the first that got into the game, it was not the first that was planned to be added. Charleroi has a bit of a weird layout, and you might be looking at the loop on the right side of the map around Waterloo and thinking, boy, now that's funky. But that's not the trick up this level's sleeve that grabbed my attention so quickly. Instead, it's the loop around Beaux Arts. I'm probably horribly mispronouncing that. I know this is a real location, so, oops. Regardless, there was a very, very clever trick that on the first playthrough I completely missed, and as soon as I went to complain about that this level wasn't possible, I immediately realized what it was, and I felt like a genius for figuring it out before getting a hint. Is it the most clever thing we've ever seen? No. Is it clever enough that I think it's worthy to be in the game? Absolutely. And however much I hate signal stopping penalties in general, this is one of the few levels where it works exceedingly well. You see, the loop around the, I'm not gonna try and pronounce that name a second time, around the station with 3 tracks, it's longer than just taking the direct route. It artificially extends the distance between 2 points, allowing you to run trains with signal stopping penalties for longer periods of time before they ever get penalized. This innocuous trick is actually mandatory, and I think, personally, it's brilliant. I certainly know it's frustrated some people, but this is supposed to be a puzzle game after all. Some of these more creative puzzles definitely deserve a spotlight, and I think this is one of them that was 100% worthy of making it into the game. Though now that there have been some recent updates, I'm tempted to go back and update this level. There are 2 things I would change about it, and now we have the tools to do that. 1, I would make all trains unidirectional. I know this level is based off of a tram system where all trains are actually unidirectional. When this map was made, however, the only way you could edit a train's consist was through the level file, which at the time was an absolute pain to do. Because of this, every train on this map, and also every train on East Sinnoh, has the exact same consist of locomotive, passenger, passenger, locomotive. This was, of course, the default consist at the time. This change might make this level a little easier for newer players to understand and figure out on their own. After all, you can't just reverse the train in the station when it's stopped. Running the train backwards won't let you complete the level in time. And since the trains need to use the loop, this would be a great way to help players figure that out on their own, as I've mentioned before. The other thing I would like to change about this map is stop and reverse. By default, on every map it's turned on. However, it leads to some abuse with signal stopping penalties, as you can button mash to slow down a train or just to reverse a train. Signal stopping penalties don't check if the train is slowing down, it checks if the train is slowing down at a signal, and if you use stop and reverse repeatedly, you can basically bypass signal stopping penalties altogether. I've seen some players beat this level using stop and reverse abuse and get extremely frustrated thinking that was the actual answer to it. Now that we have the ability to remove that feature with 1.4 out, maybe it's time I revisit this level and give it another nerf. Oh, and fun fact, for the longest time, that 3-track station, which I don't want to try and pronounce again, it didn't have a station sign for some reason. I'm not sure why. It was absolutely there when this map was added to the game, yet for some reason in December 2021, or maybe January, somewhere in that rough time frame, we got a bug report showcasing that the sign was just gone. I double checked the level file, and yeah, this was actually the case. I don't know why. I think I messed up somewhere along the line, but I'm not completely sure. Fortunately, that bug's gone now, so we don't need to worry about it any further. Last, but not least, is Yamanoue, which is the Japanese word for mountain, supposedly. The idea of this map is that you're running trains up a mountain via switchbacks to the town of Yamanoue, which is why, of course, the map is named Yamanoue. The main focus of this map is a mountain, or at least it's supposed to be one. Obviously, we can't actually put a mountain in the game. This is a 2D game, not a 3D one, but Shiro did their best to represent one nonetheless, and I think they did a good job with the walls. This level uses a mechanic that I'm kinda surprised we don't see more often, which is, well, switchbacks. It's a simple way of adding additional challenge to your level and also making it more visually interesting. It's a simple, yet brilliant mechanic that hasn't seen as much of a spotlight as it should have. For those of you map makers watching, maybe that's a source of inspiration. Anyways, there's not a ton to say on this level, really. It was a submission for the original creator contest, and it won second place both in the public and the private rankings. Of the three winners, this was the one that needed the least modification before it was added to the game. Just a few more walls were added to make the mountain seem a little more mountainous. More specifically, in the northern area of the map where there is the massive tunnel. It used to be kind of empty, actually literally empty. So we just added a little more to the pattern of walls, and bam, the level was ready to run. That's legitimately all I have to say for now. If you'd like to play more of Shiro's levels, I'll link their Steam Workshop page in the description. Aside from that, though, I'll see you all in the next video. Cheers, folks.